This might be kind of an odd question, but I'd like you to think about it a little bit. Does it bother you when somebody else likes something you don't? And to me, when you put the question like that, it all sounds absurd, right? I mean, what do you care what people like and what they don't like? But if you look at the way a lot of fans kind of treat each other and engage with each other, a lot of it can come down to, somebody says they like something and people go nuts about it for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of justifications, but why? Why do people do this? And this isn't limited to comics. Of course, you have this in all kinds of pop culture, science fiction, everything else. But why? Why? Why would it bother somebody if somebody else likes something? Hey everybody, this is Perch. A lot of the arguments that go back and forth around comics often stem between, kind of a core difference. One person likes something, the other does not, and thus the fight is born. It really often is not any more complex than that. The reasons why the fight really gets going and where I think it turns into kind of a bigger war are the justifications people give for liking or not liking something. But a lot of this could be short circuited by two simple things. The people who like what they like just feel confident about it. They don't have to justify it. They don't have to feel like they need to, be part of the majority. They can just like what they like. And the other part is people get more comfortable with just, letting people dislike things letting people like things they don't like. See, it's all convoluted even when I say it. But you take comics throughout, you take a lot of what's gone on with Marvel and DC, and once upon a time, the arguments were a lot more, I would say, grounded. They were more in the lines of which is better, DC or Marvel? Who do you like better? Is it Batman or Spider Man? And those were, in my mind, at least healthier arguments. They could be based off of a variety of different things. I mean, you can't prove them one way or another. You can't ultimately figure out which character is better. You can assign some kind of data to it, like this character is sold more than this character, so financially, this character is better. But ultimately, it seemed like fans and people could, even though they'd have fierce arguments, could eventually get to a some level of truce around the concept of, well, you may like Superman, but I like Captain America, and that's just the way it's going to be, and I hate that term. We'll agree to disagree. When people say we'll agree to disagree, what they're really saying is, well, I am correct and you are wrong, but I have run out of ways to argue with you, so we will agree to disagree. That's an exaggeration. I'm sure some people mean that honestly and genuinely, but generally speaking, I think when people throw out that term, they don't really mean it. They're just done with the argument. But of late, it's more along the lines of people liking things and not people not liking other people liking things. So take for example, and there's several. You take manga for example. I'm amazed by the amount of people who get really kind of agitated around manga. They want to make it clear that people who like manga are wrong, are on a sinking ship, etc. And the same thing is to some extent, well, not to some extent, it is true with Marvel and DC. There are still plenty of people out there who like Marvel, who like DC, who like what they like out of those two companies. But there's a counter argument around, well, those companies are failing, they're wrong, they're filled with social manipulators, they're about to go out of business, the entire industry is collapsing. You've got to hate it, you absolutely have to, you must. And that stuff leads, I mean, I look at that stuff and like, why do you care? I have people who come into my comments on a daily basis to do nothing more than just kind of argue with people's points. Somebody's like, I don't like, Miss Marvel. And some people come in and go, well, I don't care what you don't like because it's the greatest comic in the world and you're just stupid for saying that. Why bother? Like, what what are you getting out of that? There's no point. There's like, do you expect like one day for like the clouds to part and like an angel will come down and say, I present to you the award for the best argument ever given on social media. You, sir, are the prince of the internet, and you shall go forth as the leader of all things comics related. Congratulations. You win. You will have your name printed in a Donny Cates comic for your achievement. Is that what people are going for? I have a hard time believing it. But it's I think, in the end, we don't really have to justify why we like something or dislike something. We could just like it or not like it. Maybe we're having a bad day and we picked up a comic and it was bad, and screw it, we didn't enjoy it. The end. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It doesn't make you stupid for not liking it. It doesn't make you stupid for liking it. Just whatever floats your boat. I used to think that the Doug Ramsey and Rain relationship was a good one in New Mutants a long time ago. It's like I was shipping that couple, and but a lot of people have since pointed out that that was a terrible romance, and there were better relationships in comics, and I was stupid for liking that, and it was all what dumb writing. I mean, there are people out there right now who thoroughly enjoyed the Chuck Austin run on X-Men, who believed that that was a great thing, and the introduction of Nurse Annie was a fine contribution to the annals of comic history, and more power to you. I think you can just like it. It's odd to me that there's so much investment into what other people like or dislike. It just that's not what comics, well, I don't want to say that's not what comics was meant to be. No, that's a stuffy dumbass way of saying it. I'm just saying it's a waste of time. It is a thorough waste of time. And I think that if there's people out there who absolutely they're Captain Marvel fans, and they love, they're part of the Carol Corps, and it's never been better than it is right now. uh, most comic shops would like to meet that person and take their money, and business gets done, and that's a good thing, and it doesn't need to be any weirder than that. At the same time, and I because it goes hand in hand. If you And I've done a video on this before, if you like something and it's not popular by metrics like the comic book doesn't, it's clearly not marketed as one of their top books, the sales numbers are low, you don't have to come in and go over the top by explaining why it's the best, most amazing book ever, and everybody is sleeping on it, and it's just everybody else is stupid but you. That's not necessary either. And I watch this go on a lot in the arguments of comics. There'll be this kind of over the top. This writer has never written Deadpool quite as great as before, and this is the best writer existing in comics today. It's like, okay, but the comic is selling under 30,000 copies. It has no buzz, no momentum, no heat, and but you enjoy it, cool. You can just enjoy it. You can just leave it be and be okay. You don't have to be mad that everybody else doesn't love it as much as you do. Maybe you can just sit with that. I don't know. I find that there are, I've talked about this before, others have talked about this before. It does become a bit of a performance art on all fronts of going over the top. It's not just like, hey, the comic industry could be doing a lot better than it's doing today, or hey, there's a comic story that is not the best, and I don't really like it, and I felt bad for spending 7.99 on it, or hey, I see that Amazing Spider-Man has brought back Green Goblin again. Oh boy, look at this, it's amazing. I can't believe they let them get away with that. It you know it it all feels so phony to me, and I think when people get really up in arms about what they hate and what they like, it's so over the top. This is the worst comic, the industry is completely crashing, this is the best comic, nobody has ever done this character with this much justice. I laughed, I cried, I had a complete journey in the 22 pages. Do people, I'd like to meet, and I mean legitimately, because I do believe there's probably some people out there, but I'd like to meet the person who picks up the comic and is just transported into a euphoric state of emotions, and laughs and cries and cheers. And like, I see this review a lot now, and I picked up this comic and I turned the page, I cheered out loud. You did? Like, really, you did that? Because I don't, I'm having a hard time picturing that. Like, I mean, there was a guy in the comic shop that used to come in and he'd buy his comics, And he would then read the comics at the counter, and sometimes that was fine, and other times we were busy and that was annoying. But in the times he's sitting there reading, and he would go and oh my goodness, and then he'd turn the page, he'd be like no, and I'm like, he's giving like a little like emotional commentary the entire time he's reading the comic, and it was cute on one hand, but on the other hand, it often felt like he was doing it for our benefit. Like if he's just in his room by himself, he wouldn't be making these noises. Like he was trying to get us to go. Oh, what is it? What was so astonishing on that page? It all feels very performative. And I think that's the point I made a few times and why I get into details on this stuff. But I don't know. I think that we as people who read comics, people enjoy comics. I think everybody just needs to get a little bit more comfortable with the idea that other people are going to like and hate things. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter to you. It doesn't matter to me. We throw out our opinion out there and everything else. I have people come into the comments and like will respond to every opinion with like the counter opinion. Like, that's not correct. It's like you look like an ass. I mean, I'm just saying, you're not convincing anyone with the argument, and it's like just let somebody have their opinion on why you know Ryan Otley draws a better Spider-Man than somebody else, Mark Bagley. I mean, we can debate it because that is part of the comics community, but at the end of the day, like that argument's got to end, and people have to go on. And whether somebody likes something or hates something, it really doesn't matter, to my wallet. If I'm a fan, if I'm a comic shop, I want everybody to love everything. Like everybody come in. As a retailer, as I guess I'll wrap up with this. Why I struggle with this is that as a retailer, none of this makes any sense at all. Like your goal is just to move product. And so when people hate a comic, you don't want them continuing to buy it because that typically is going to have problems in the future, but you want to get them steered into a comic they'll enjoy. So you care about that a lot, that dynamic. And I think that might explain a lot of where I'm coming from in these videos of like, it's pragmatism. Your goal is to get somebody, to get something in the hands of the customer that they're going to enjoy. So they'll give you your money and they'll come in next month and they'll do it again, and or next week or whatever it happens to be. And that's really what the game is. And the rest is a lot of noise, and oftentimes a lot of distracting noise that takes away from goal number one, which is get people what they want and move on, and i.e. be a business. I don't know, maybe I heard somebody told me once I look at all this stuff way too much from a business perspective and not a fan perspective, and maybe I just need to not be away from running a store for 5-6 years and I could flip over there. But to me, it does come down to business, and that's just the perspective you're getting here. So put that where you like. Anyway, what do you think? Why do you think people get so up in arms about these things and care so much about what other people like or dislike? Why is that? Leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Follow me on social media or send me an email. But most importantly, thanks for listening.